So, we will continue from the last lecture where we left. We were talking about that transformation is a more sustained, willful training of the mind to create a new form or function or structure or new way of living for that matter. And all transformation is obviously change, it is not like the previous one, but all change is not transformation, because a change may be ill sustained, totally driven by the external environment, whereas the need for transformation comes from within. The need for change also may come from within, but it may not be ill sustained. So, where are these needs coming from? One, the biggest need we all face is getting a harmony between varied and diverse affective and cognitive state. That is the, whatever you do, whether you work or you study or you fall in love or you remain in a relationship, you want to succeed, you want to be knowledgeable, or maybe you want to just show your knowledge, whatever. Ultimately, the biggest need is linked to what I was saying, create a meaning of life, that is, a create your story. And as the multiple stories collide, your different roles collide, your different mood states and different thought states collide, you have, the brain has to do a coherent story out of it. So, that is the basic need. And obviously, when you look at story and you look at cinema, imagine there are a lot of disjointed scenes and you pay some $200 for watching a movie, and you do not know what the story is, you will get disgusted. Same is with the mind. It will get disgusted if it cannot weave a composite story of something. So, what is the basic need within a mind is a harmony between varied and diverse affective and cognitive states. You can extrapolate from it. The same process goes on into the larger unit when people marry. So, between varied and diverse thought process, a harmony has to be created for peace. So, peace steps in. Peace, remember when I showed you the slide of rasas, there was a rasa which was mentioned as Shant rasa. Ultimately, whatever activity you do, the attempt of the mind or brain or all activity is to have pleasure. One, pleasure, and by releasing that pleasure, by achieving that, you want a state of shant. Your mind needs to be peaceful, which it is not, because there are so many varied and diverse states going on at the same time. So, and then from a marital couple, you move on to larger family, there are more people to be adjusted and harmony created, and keep going. Your locality, your city, your state, your country, the world, it becomes, the whole thing becomes extremely complicated and complex. And from this complexity keeps emerging the solutions also. So, all the effort which is being done, even the wars which are being justified in the name of this, even the corporates, even the invasions, the exploitations, the gaps, the divisions, from they all actually you can pin it down from your basic mind. This need for harmony is a persistent need. Whether it is satisfied or not, whether you achieve it or not, that is a different issue, but that is the first need which keeps you pushing. And then you would have heard of this person called Maslow. He gave a theory of pyramid, that actually what pyramid has different level. And he said everybody moves in this, the need for these are the basic needs. One is the physiological comfort, food, shelter and sex, that is the primary thing. Then there is a quest for security, protection from physical harm, survival, which has tended to make people, homes, communities, states, nations, even religion for that matter. Sense of belonging is very important. Sense of belonging arises from this need and also the need for being loved. We want to belong, and that is why once we are born into a religion, we tend to stick to it. At least you belong to it. There is a need for receiving love, need for recognition or esteem. That is probably what pushes people to do all these great things of writing a book, of making a cinema, of earning a lot of money, and so that these are the pushes, these are the needs, or you can call them push, which, and Maslow has put it very correctly, only when your basic needs are fulfilled, only then you will move to the other thing. Like once your food, security, everything is confirmed, then you look for love, then you look for, now it's not totally black and white brackets. People keep pushing between these multiple states of mind and the needs, but at the end of the day, you want to do all this again, as I said previously, to create a harmony in your life. That harmony is very important. That correct, precise balance between the various contradictory forces which are pushing. Well, so finally, when all this is done, there is a need for transcending the self, which is also called, this is called self actualization. So you, when all this is done, you really go for self actualization, but the mind has to keep harmonizing between them. So self actualization is the ultimate need. You can get Maslow's thing anywhere in a psychology book, and this we have talked about, how transformation is more sustained and change is fleeting. So we have too many selves. We have seen a slide, at least 3: what I am, what I think I am, and what other people. So you have to create a harmony even between them. Now the question you can ask me, if you think, if you have already thought, some of you would have thought it, that one, in the last lecture I was talking about the intent and will. In the transformation I was talking about intent and will, and change being involuntary, transformation being more voluntary and requiring training of mind, which again requires will. And on the other hand, I am saying that there is a need which pushes people to bring in change and transformation. So isn't the will is automatically ruled out? Valid question. Yeah, it could be, it sounds contradictory, but just go a step beyond it. Even if it is unconscious need, even if it is a sociological need, even if it is a psychological need, as Maslow said, of going, securing one aspect of your life and then move on other, ultimately it has all to be converted into behavior. So when the need pushes and it wants you to do something, at that point of time, when the conscious, it comes to a conscious frame of mind, at that time one still has a choice of how to go about it, because the final decision of acting on something, a final decision of behaving, lies with the higher center which we have talked about, which is the decision making center, and probably there lies the intent and will. So there may be a will which has arisen from need based thing, it has reached a conscious, so this is all unconscious, it has reached a conscious mind which has to decide whether to act on it or whether to suppress or to ignore. This is a choice still here. So this may be the initial will or intent, this may not be a free will, but it is still a will to choose one of this, and this is where transformation steps in. Whereas change would just bypass this and go into one of these actions. I hope I make myself clear. I will try and do it again. So, if there is an unconscious mind, and there is a need. So, say this is a need and this is not a will. Need brings a certain frame to the conscious mind. The conscious mind can act, ignore, or choose the ways to act. The change, this unconscious mind is again getting affected by external inputs. So, external input will alter the unconscious, which will alter the need. The conscious mind will act or ignore, and this will again go back as a feedback to the external input. We again go back into a feedback cycle. So, what I act on, the same things act on me. I decide to speak softly to somebody. After one, twice, thrice, other people will start speaking softly to me. But that is a change. It may not get sustained. In another situation, I may get angry. So, the change will go, there will be a different change. My contention is that once it reaches a conscious thing, the will itself may be a result of need, but there is still a will, and this will can choose how to do it, how to act. Here lies transformation. This is transformation, where we require continuous hammering, mental training, and a need, again another set of need to keep changing and differentiating between what is happening. So, we talked about self. So, there is a self which is almost self-centered for survival. It can go to becoming selfish, that the person does not see anything beyond oneself, or it can step out of self to empathize. We will talk about empathy later. So, what is empathy? We talked about mirror neurons, if you remember, the neurons which make people communicate with each other non-verbally, and the part of the brain which has brought out a concept of theory of mind about the ability to understand the mind of the other person, of what the other person is thinking. In simplest terms, empathy is to put yourself in someone else's shoes, and it's a step ahead of sympathy, obviously. Empathy is inbuilt, because if there are mirror neurons, and if a sad face can bring in sadness in me, if a sad face can trigger a feeling that the other person is sad, that means it is an inbuilt thing, but it is just not about feeling. So, this is how you imagine self in pain, this, and these are the areas, and you imagine another in pain. See the areas, similar areas, medial prefrontal cortex, which lights up on this image. So, the roots are the same. So, when I am in pain, my area of brain which will get activated will, and if you are able to see it or maybe hear it, or by some mechanism it reaches you, the same. Even when I tell you that, say, okay, my hand is hurting, so there will be a certain area of my brain which would have got activated, either feeling the hurt or at least conveying it, and the same thing is sent to you. So, but empathy is not so simple. Even if it is natural, it is in all of us. Not everybody is equally empathetic, and I'm just talking about empathy because transformations can be of many type. As I said, they can be good, they can be bad, they can be destructive, constructive, they can be entirely selfish, selfishly motivated, they can be socially motivated. So, why I am talking about all these things are, so a selfish transformation would not require empathy, it would require killing of empathy actually. But what I am going to do from now is, once that we have established that a change is the difference between the change and transformation, I am going to focus my talk into the transformation which involves lot of constructive transformation, rather I should say, and maybe we will go about it and then we will talk about how something which is okay, the bottom line is something which is beneficial to the most, to oneself and to others also. Let us take it that wise, because and this is partly because of my belief that and I hope you agree that human beings, if they are human beings so connected with mirror neurons, if they are so connected with communication, if they are so interdependent on each other for food, for life, for every damn thing which they do, obviously they either they will survive together or perish together, because we not only share common gene pool, we share a lot of resources on earth, and we have to so no man is an island, as we talked previously, and I do not think anybody can. So, it is important that we look at this process of a more constructive transformation, and henceforth we talk of empathy in that context. So, empathy, that just feeling, putting myself into your shoes is fine, that is so, and but in sympathy whatever we just okay, we tell you that fine, I sympathize with you, I understand your feeling, that is sympathy. There is a common ground where your emotion and my emotion meet, and they meet, and I can feel that, not feel, rather I can understand your feeling. Empathy goes beyond understanding, I can feel your feeling. So, it is not so easy. Consciously doing it is very difficult at times, but even when it is happening unconsciously, it still has a lot of processes in it. And to become a master of empathy definitely requires, so what all it requires? It requires that need of self. The self has to be postponed temporarily. When I step into your shoes and I want to see the situation from your angle, I want to feel what you are feeling, obviously I have to suspend my own self, because all this while I was seeing the situation from my angle, from my feeling, from my cognition. So, I have to suspend it temporarily, rather dissolve it, that even if it is for brief moments. I have to identify your mood or the person with whom I am empathizing, I have to identify that. Unless, because for the same situation for which somebody is crying, I may be cool, I may say, why are you bothered about it? But unless I get into the shoes of the other person, I will not know why the other person is crying. So, I dissolve myself, see the situation from the other person's angle, feel that emotion, that is how I identify the affect, the mood. But then it does not end there, it also requires a solution. Otherwise, what is the point feeling like you, or feeling you feel like me, what is the point? Then the mind has to separate from it, because if you remain in the same affective identification and dissolution of self continues, what is the impact? You also start crying. So, ask doctors, they are not taught in exact terms like this, but they should be taught like this. They have empathy, that slowly, but most of them are so busy that they do not train themselves. Although that inherent empathy of doctors is much more than the ordinary crowd or people who are into helping professions. They naturally become like this, because they know the person tells them, oh, it is paining. So, seeing thousands of patients, they know what that pain is. They have to identify with that pain, but they can't just start feeling, oh, if you are having pain, I am also feeling that pain. They may say it, that I understand your pain, I feel that pain, but that does not mean they will flow. So, they have to separate themselves objectively. A surgeon has to separate himself from the pain which the patient is going to feel while being sutured, because that will bring the solution. Why is it important? It is important because this brings in the original thing which we were talking about. This requires emotion and this requires cognition. So, the is interplay is the one which leads to this, and this may be a trigger for some change, where especially where your transformation and change is important for other people. So, we will talk about empathy when it comes to it later. I just introduce it as a concept, because sometimes while you are transforming and changing for a larger thing, you may need to understand perspectives beyond your own. Unless you do that, you will not be able to really look into of what exactly is happening. So, when you feel a situation where you think it has come to a point where without transforming it is not going to help. So, either you can motivate yourself, which is a desire to eliminate the unpleasant, or resist. So, again this is a choice. Although not fully a choice, it will lot depend on your need and conditioning of mind and the possibility of survival. If you can survive, most people would not do it. So, what I am trying to tell you, that none of these things work in isolation, that the need, the pressure of need is against will, will is against need. It is not that. They all are in a continuous dynamics, and added to it is your, as I said, possibility of survival against a threat. So, that can push you to change. If there is a survival threat, you will always try to change or even transform at times. People transform under pressure. Political history will tell you that under repressive, oppressive regimes, people have changed their religion, they have changed their way of living, and they become different people. Those are the external needs of survival. So, needs are pushing, the will is there, but the will chooses to comply. There are other people who will not comply, who will rebel. So, they want to rebel, and so the resist or motivate to change. So, this is a huge dynamics while you are living in this world of your needs, your need for survival, you have to the changes, the best survival techniques, your own Maslowian needs. Ultimately, whether you motivate yourself to change or you resist the change depends on how well or harmonious your mind is, and that depends on a lot of your belief systems, your training, your. So, this is a whole mosaic of things. This is not a linear stuff which is going on. For a rebel to resist the external pressure would be harmonious. For a person who wants to, does not want to face the unpleasantries, for him complying would be there. So, it can be, there is nothing right or wrong in it, but the process, I just wanted, this whole concept of this course is to throw concepts, look at the process which you are working. So, again these are techniques like you for empathy, we will come back to it. So, when do you decide to change or transform? As I said, the external pressure may suddenly initiate a need, which can go to your conscious mind. Your will or intent still has a choice how to act or ignore or whatever. That whether you will do that again, and I said that intent may not be a free intent. Again, will evaluate against the need for survival at that time. So, sudden change in environment or life, internal stress or trauma creates a dissonance. Dissonance is the discomfort, the misfitting of your various components of your thought and mind. So, there is a external change, creates a new need, goes to conscious, it has a will which is again probably partly affected by this choice. This can go to change or comply, which will again feedback with the external environment, and depending on it, and all this can be affected by need for survival or your conditioning or belief systems. So, this is the whole dynamics which determines what people are going to do. Dissonance for any change or a long lasting transformation, the dissonance should be sufficient to shake up. Little bit of here and there makes you change. Then suppose by mistake you while walking you hit somebody, and then you should not. So, you change yourself and next time you walk carefully, but that is only for a brief period. You will again walk in the same speed. That is how we do not, we make promises to ourselves and we do not keep it, because the dissonance which an act has created in your mind is not sufficient enough to shake you up. You understand? Sufficient. Let me tell you a hypothetical situation. You are driving on the road. Sometimes when you are driving and you suddenly talk to somebody and you just bump into a bike, you feel sorry and next time you are careful again to forget it, But by mistake, if you are talking on a mobile and you bump and kill somebody, that would trigger off a dissonance which will lead to a lot of guilt and shame, and that is the point where transformations can begin. But is the process available to all? We will leave it at this and examine this process of transformation in the next talk. Thank you.